Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm your host Mac, and today I have a special guest with me. It's Matt and Martin from Tulsa, Oklahoma. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great. Sean, how are you, man?
Pretty good, buddy. So I've seen you all around town now the last few years, so this is a great
Yes.
chance for me to just delve in a little bit and check out everything about you. And let's just start out with for the viewers, where's the best place to find you, like online and so forth?
Um, well, my music, Matt Martin's MonkeyMind, is on Bandcamp for sale. If you go to hortonrecords.bandcamp, all of the music is there. And then it's also, you can stream it for free there. And also all of the music is, if you look me up on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Tidal. The music is available on all of those places to stream. So,
And if somebody's here in the local area, meaning Tulsa, Oklahoma City, where could they find you playing, Matt?
um, well, I play with a lot of different bands at a lot of different places, and it's like just for example, like tonight I'm going to be in which this is Thursday, November 21st. Tonight I'm going to be in Oklahoma City with Shaban Tiger. I'm part of the Shaban Tiger trio. And we're going to be we're adding a guy to the band named David Spindle. And we're going to recreate the show we did, the Jesse Ed Davis tribute we did at the Oklahoma Historical Society a few days back. We learned 10 songs that Jesse Ed either wrote and performed or performed on with other artists like Taj Mahal or Eric Clapton.
Yeah, and
And
you're referring to Jesse, right? So, and I know who that you're talking about, but the viewers might
oh, yeah.
not because we have international viewers. So just give a little blurt real quick on who that is, actually.
Jesse Ed Davis, he was born in Oklahoma. He passed away years ago. There's been a research. He's a guitar player. He played with George Harrison, Eric Clapton. He played his most famous thing was he played the guitar solo on "Doctor My Eyes" by Jackson Brown. And the story goes that he walked in the studio, picked up the guitar, they played one pass, and got up and left, and that's what they used.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's a real iconic solo. I mean, I could, hum it to you right now. But so he kind of raised the profile, like a lot of those old guys, like Leon Russell and J.J. Cale, and a lot of other musicians that I know that aren't household names that did make that trek to California in the 60s. Uh, but yeah, he was quite an interesting musician, and he was a we don't have a lot of Native American rock stars, but he really was. I mean, the way he looked and dressed and played, and he just he really was a rock star. And then learning his songs a few weeks ago, he mentions, being down on Broadway, a street in Oklahoma City, and he has all sorts of references to Oklahoma City where he lived. And but to circle back to why we were doing his music, since he's passed many years ago, there's a guy who wrote a biography of Jesse Ed, and that biography just came out a few days ago, and that's why we were playing this performance in Oklahoma City. It's called Washita Love Child, the book, and I'll um, I'll I'll hold it up here when we take a break. When we
Yeah,
come back,
I'll put
I'll
it
hold
on
it.
the video for everybody to see and stuff. They'll see the book and everything and all that.
Okay.
So I'll post
Yeah.
all that and where they can find it. And so, why is this near and dear to your heart, Matt? So, what does this have to do with Oklahoma and yourself?
Well, I was born and raised here too, and I moved to Tulsa because I visited Tulsa when I was in my early 20s and was listening to the local musicians here. And I was just blown away. I this was like in 1979, and I went out. I heard again these Jim Byfield, Jim Sweeney. I saw Jamie Oldecker playing drums. I saw a guy named Billy Estes playing drums. Chuck DeWalt. And then it turns out that many of my David Teagarden became and is a dear friend now, and he was one of my idols. I wanted to play like David. I wanted to play like all those guys, and so to move to Tulsa, and they all those people that I just mentioned, they're friends of mine now, and so I really got to know the people that I admired and learned so much from their playing. Uh,
It's pretty
so
amazing. I interviewed David Teagarden, so on a previous episode, I'll put that up. And I also did an episode of Church Studios with my buddy
yeah.
Homer, who's now recovered from that motorcycle accident.
Hmm.
Isn't able to play guitar at the moment yet after a year now, but Homer Robertson was the one that interviewed everybody there at the Church Studios. So all them cats are in that legend and the stories of everything coming out of the Church Studios and so, all right. So, Matt, let's tell everybody like who are you playing with locally? Who are besides Tiger? Is it like Seth and Paul Benjamin and all these people? So, who else have you been playing
Uh,
with?
I am. I'm second and third string in a lot of bands, which I'm actually cool with. I started playing bass about 10 years ago. I never played it professionally, and I started playing it 10 years ago and took lessons from a guy named Jim Bates, who's the best. People will tell you he's the best bass instructor around, and just learned as fast as I could. And I've always loved bass, and so that kind of put me in a position and increased my value with these guys if I would learn their material that way. I've played bass with Seth. I played drums with Seth. I played drums with Paul Benjamin. I've played bass with Paul Benjamin. Not very often, but um, when you learn, when you're able to fill in two different positions, it makes it easier to stay busier. And it's like this week, I happen to be supposed to be playing bass tonight, drums tomorrow. Let's see, Friday. Yeah, drums. This is Thursday. Okay, I'm supposed to be playing bass tonight, drums on Friday at the Deli in Norman with some Oklahoma City musicians, and then Saturday night I'll be with my buddy Randy S. and Scott Music at a place that's been around forever called the Elephant Run, and so it's just it's real fun. To go to number one, it's real fun to go back and forth on the two instruments, which because I enjoy them both equally. And number two, it's just fun to play with so many different people. I played with my good buddies Steve White and Brad Absher last night at Maggie's. We've got a trio called Absher, Martin, and White, and you know, I've known those guys. I played with Brad for probably 35 years off and on, and Steve for probably 10 or 15 years. And, when you have that kind of history with the people, that's when it's a whole different proposition because you don't just know each other's music preferences. You've been through a lot of things together and you know that person inside and out. And it really, I think, makes the music better,
I
and
agree. And so many people, when I was out and about, and whether it was the Colony or Mercury or wherever around town, and everybody says good things about you, Matt. So everybody's like always looking forward to seeing Matt when you walk in, whether you're just checking friends out, because you're not just there playing. I've seen you. You and I have high-fived each other and stuff
Oh
at
yeah.
some of the bars and stuff, and you're out there checking on your buddies and enjoying what they're doing. And so like you've become like a little local legend when
Oh, I
when Matt Martin shows up, people are like, "Oh, look at that! There's Matt," and so you bring that vibe, buddy. So I always want to say
don't,
kudos.
I
Yeah,
don't,
I
I
love
don't
it.
know about that, but
Well, you're always smiling, like and that's the thing. You always seem to be,
yeah.
pleasant with everybody. So I think everybody appreciates that in town, and you
Well,
bring that vibe.
I tell you what, some nights I get home from playing, and this happened last night. It's like sometimes I get almost overwhelmed when it's over, like the afterglow. It's like how grateful I am to have these friends and to get to play with them and to, create something uh, several nights a week, not knowing exactly what you're going to come up with until you're done. And I decided a few years ago uh, to I try to go into every gig like not to be morbid, but it's like let's say something could happen to me. You know, I could be in a car wreck. I could get some illness. So you never know how many shows you have left in your life. And so I try to go, I would hate to play somewhere and then something happened and it wasn't a good show. Be like, oh, my last one, my last show was disappointing. So I try to make sure every one of them, when I get done that I feel good about it and it's a great memory. And
Now, Matt, on that note, you put out one of my favorite albums last year. So my two of my favorite albums was Drew Wynn's album, right?
yeah,
Got some
yeah.
balloons there for Drew, and also MonkeyMind. So
Oh
it's
man,
so that's I love it, and I was using it for a lot of my different episodes. I try to put the credit on there for you,
thank
and
you. Thank
yeah,
you.
and a lot of intros to some of the shows and stuff. And so let's talk about MonkeyMind for a minute, because I think you have a new release. So you can mention the
Dude,
release and then talk about the band, who's in it, and what was the story kind of behind MonkeyMind.
well, um, the origin story is I'd never had time to I've written some songs over the years and never really had time to really collect them and start getting it together and working on recording them. I never made my own record. I played on other people's records, but Seth Jones and Rachel were over for dinner one night, and to tell you the truth, I probably wouldn't have played the music for him, but we had a couple toasts after dinner, and I said, "Man, I want to play you. I want to play you this stuff." And I put it on. He's like, "Yeah, man, I dig it. I like it." And I said, "Well, would you consider, going in the studio with me and being the guitar player?" And he said, "Of course I would." And he said, "But we got to get Matt Teagarden on drums. Matt'll be perfect for this." And I'd played with Matt in Seth's trio. I'd played bass. I played bass in Monkey Mind, and so we got Matt involved, and then there was a guy that I didn't really know very well named Greg Zink. He's a great piano and B3 player from Oklahoma City, and Seth said Greg is our guy. He's our guy. So we got him involved, and then we went in the studio and cut all these songs that I wrote. And I started hearing, after we had already started, I started hearing horn parts in my head. It's like some of these songs should have a horn section. So I went to my buddy, didn't know any horn players, went to my buddy Larry York at the music store, and he said, "Oh yeah, you just call Rod Clark. That's all you have to know. Just call Rod Clark." And he was right. I called him, I talked to him, he put the horn section together, and Rod played trombone, Victor Anderson played sax, and Dave Johnson, who's with King Cabbage, played trumpet. And those are the songs. I mean, you've heard the album. Those are kind of my favorite songs with the horn section. And I'm
It's groovy, man. It's got some grooves to it. I like Seth's playing on it because Seth's been on the show a bunch, and for people
yeah.
that watch and subscribe, they know Seth, because of all the shorts I've done with him, and just recently interviewed him again. And but his playing, I thought your music brought out a little bit different stuff in him, and you got a little
People
funky
would agree.
vibe to it. Kind of, you got the horns coming in, accent and stuff. It's such a fun album. I can't tell you how much I've listened to it.
Yeah. Um, well, you're not the first person to say that it really brought out something in Seth, and I love that because he's my jaw dropped the first time I heard him, and I literally I saw him play, and it's like I don't know how I'm going to do it, but he and I are going to be friends. I don't know how that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it just so happened at that time he was teaching a guitar building class, and it's like it was like supposed to be 12 weeks, ended up being 20 uh, at a woodworking place, and that put me in a room with him every Monday night for about 4 months. And we just got to know each other. And I knew Rachel; she was also in the class, Seth's wife. So part of my in was I walked in, and Seth didn't really know me, and Rachel's like, "So good to see you." And he's like, "Look." So that gave me if Rachel liked me, I had a bit of an in. So, and I'd known her for my wife and I had known Rachel for like 5 years. So that was pretty funny.
So you had an inside track.
Yeah. So I mean, I just
That's
and
good.
I knew he liked me because he gave me so much abuse in that class. I was, sometimes I was you know what? That was all right. I knew that it meant he liked me. So
So when you
so
were writing all these songs and everything, first off, were you what studio were you in when you did these?
uh, Tea Garden Studios.
That's what I thought. I thought you were in Tea Gardens. So give a little shout out to them guys over there. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. It's where I
Yeah.
did the interview with Dave was at the studios. But when you wrote these pieces, was it like one of these things where it had been a compilation of pieces in your head for over the course of 5, 10 years, or was it more of like a year or two kind of thing? How long did you have those kind of bouncing around all those songs?
Um, I had done for 5 or 10 years. I'd been making demos. Um, I would work on a song, I'd hear a melody and I'd work on it a little bit, and then I would come back to it just when I could. Uh, and then I got some pretty fully formed demos. I mean, so what I was able to hand the guys, which I think is important, it's not as important if it's a standard song that's got lyrics. You can strum a guitar and sing it to them, and they can put their interpretation up. But when it's instrumental music and there are literal parts that have to be played, you need a demo where they can, kind of have some idea of, what's going on. And but they made it their own anyway. It was, that's what was cool about those guys. I mean, they just um, the only parts that were really set in stone ahead of time were the horn parts because they were playing as a section, and they had to Rod wrote the charts, and uh,
It's
so
interesting. So this is some good advice for some young musicians that watch the show. So, really, like, and I've heard Tom Bukovac and them guys talk about that as sessions musicians, like sometimes having a really good demo, like really helps like the sessions guys a lot because then they can get a feel for what that person's really trying to get at, the heart of the message. So that's good advice. Now talk about where did you come up with the name Monkey Mind
well, I
and
was
the
reading.
logo, the guy.
Oh, well, the little guy, there's actually a wind-up toy I had that was always sitting on the shelf. And I kept that guy around like a little mascot for some reason for years. It's just I just liked him. And and monkey bind, that phrase comes from um, East Indian culture. And in that culture, when you say somebody has a monkey mind, it means they have an overactive mind, a mind that's constantly churning and will not shut down. And so I thought monkey mind, that's where when I'm trying to write music, that's pretty much a good description of what's going on there. So that's where it came from. Can I tell you about my shirt?
Go for it.
So there's the little guy, monkey
Yeah,
mind.
there he is.
So but I was playing a show with Seth opening for um oh that's Sonny Landreth in Eureka Springs, and we played the show. Have you ever been to Eureka Springs? Okay. So we played the show, and during that day, I'd walked around. My wife and I had walked into all the shops and stuff, and so we played the show, had a great time. I go to bed that night. When I wake up the next morning, I wake up out of a dream, and I was walking around Eureka Springs in this dream. I was carrying something with me, and I went up to a merchant and I said, could I put my stuff in here on consignment? And he said, well, I don't know. Let's see it. And in the way the dream happened, I put my wares down. I picked this shirt up off the top and I held it up, and it said "Boogie Harder, Monkey Mind." and
Yeah.
even this font. I mean, it let my dream. This is what was in my dream. So we got up. We went to breakfast with a couple friends, good friends from Tulsa. I'm telling this story at breakfast with my friends John and Angela Paris, and
Oh yeah,
Angela.
John Paris. I used to play with him.
Yeah, so John and Angela were the first ones to hear about this. And I told that story, and Angela just busted out laughing. And she said, "You've got to print those shirts." She said, "I'll buy one. I guarantee you I'll buy one." And so John and Angela were the first couple of people to have one. And now I've had people take pictures of the shirts, from Ireland, and I mean, traveling all over the place. And uh, it's really fun to have something that you can where people can relate to you besides music. And then just last week, I was like, I love it when people come up and talk to me and say, and it happens surprisingly often, where they just say, "Man, hi Matt, I know who you are. I just want to tell you I have your album. I listen to it all the time. I love it. And I just wanted to say hi." And man, there's nothing quite like that. So I'm like, I have to have something to hand these people. They're strangers. They're coming up. They don't know me. So
Yeah.
I had these pins made. I got one on my hat.
Oh yeah, yeah, cool.
Nine pins. So
I like it.
yeah. So next time I see you,
Yeah,
I'm
buddy, I put one right on my head.
gonna give you a pin.
Now, have you named the monkey at all? Does he have a
No,
name or anything?
no,
Doesn't have a name
no,
yet, huh?
no, there's
I'm gonna have
no.
to put his image up here and people can look, and maybe if
Yeah.
people want to submit a name, they can message us on the show
Oh,
here.
okay.
Maybe his name is Boogie.
Yeah. BH.
Yeah, Boogie.
Biatch.
That's funny. I love it. Now, Matt, you mentioned playing drums. You play bass guitar. Do you look like you have a little pianos? You have keyboards sitting there next to you. So do you play keys at all, or do you just kind of write with them for like chord progressions and
I just
melodies?
write
Okay.
with them.
Yeah, and I see you have some other percussion instruments behind you too.
I got some congas.
Yep. Okay. So you're like, yep. So you're getting all into like some of that stuff too, right? You can jam on some of that.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
there's kind of a it's so funny when we started this today, I told myself I'm not going to just blab on and on, but there's this kind of a story with everything. I'll make it quick. I have the congas because Brad Absher wanted to recut an old Little Feat song called Spanish Moon, and we didn't have a conga player, and he got Jake Lynn to play drums and Matt Maxwell to play bass, and we did it at the church studio. And he said, "Do you want to play congas?" I said, "Man, I've never played congas in my life." He goes, "You got 2 weeks." He said, "You can figure it out." And so I got to study congas, and I started working. And I play them all the time. And I really I don't I'm not good. I'm not good at it, but it's a journey like all the other journeys when you're trying to learn an instrument. And but anyway, the hilarious thing is that when you listen to um, the song starts with the congas.
Oh, okay.
That's the first thing you hear. And so he's got all these great musicians like Matt Maxwell and uh, Jake, and he had a lot of Greg's from uh, King Cabbage, a lot of those horn guys. So I mean, incredible band. And Brad played guitar and stuff. So it's an incredible band, and I'm in there playing the congas after 2 weeks of practice. So
I love it, man. That's funny. Now, Matt, when you grew up, did you guys have a musical household? Did you have parents playing music or playing instruments or anything? Did you have siblings, older siblings, or just kind of
no,
friends at school? Or were you like into like music growing up at all or no?
I was always into music. I I kind of lived like an only child. I had a brother who was 9 years older, but when he was 14, he went out and started, working at the Dairy Queen 40 hours a week. So I spent a lot of time, it was a different time, but I spent a lot of time in my room. And I had a record player, and my parents were really encouraging if I asked for a musical instrument, you know, I started playing drums. I started playing snare drum at age 12, which is you do when you in the band program I was in. Who, by the way, my first band director, Joe Reed, was also the band director for Leon Russell when Leon Russell played trombone. So I thought
Cool.
that was interesting.
Yeah, it's cool.
Small world. But this was in Seminole, Oklahoma. And I played snare drum for a couple of years, and then I got a drum set at age 14. I got a job at a drugstore to buy my first guitar, my first electric guitar. And then my dad kept showing up with instruments. He would run into people that had instruments to sell, and he'd just bring them home. And so I ended up with a bass guitar and an acoustic guitar. My mom bought me this piano in the 70s, and it's a Wurlitzer. And
Then as you grew up in your high school years, did you play in the band program kind of thing or what happened?
yeah,
Did you?
well, I did. I got my first drum set at age 14. And man, something you said you have sometimes some younger listeners. I want to share something if somebody's young. I was the most uncoordinated person that anybody of my friends. I was the guy. I never played sports, tripped over my own feet all the time. Very, very clumsy. And so it was a joke when I got a drum set. All my friends were like, "You got to keep 2 hands and 2 feet doing different things." There's no way, man. There's no way you can do that. And they were sort of right at first, but I practiced and practiced and practiced every day, 2, 3 hours a day, and sometimes more on the weekends. And it came very slowly, but I never gave up. And of course, back then, there were not very many distractions. And so I had that kind of time. And so, man, I just gradually, I got better and better and better till I was good enough to play in the high school pep band. And then we also, for such a small town, we had a great band music program. But they had what they call stage band, and it was like a 20-piece band with all the horns, but with the guitar, drum set, bass guitar, and keys. And I played in that band. So my first experience playing drums was kind of almost like big band type drumming.
Cool.
And that was a great introduction to drumming. And then when I started playing when I was 17 years old, I started playing in bars. I was underage, but my mother's best friend uh, liked to go out, and you you couldn't go in a bar without your parent being with you if you were underage. And so I was playing in this place, kind of out on the highway, kind of a rough place, and with this country band, and she went with me every time, and she said, "Yes, I'm his mom," and you know, and I played so often she got tired of going, but by the time she got tired of showing up, they were so used to me there that they just didn't even ask any questions. So, and then I played another a lounge in Ada, Oklahoma when I was 17, and they never asked for any kind of ID. The piano player, I played drums, and my friend Terry Battle played piano. He was 16. And we're in there, we played every weekend for months. Here we high school kids, going to play in a lounge in another city, at the Holiday Inn, and well received. And I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Different time though. You and I grew up in the 70s and 80s and
Yeah,
stuff and all that. And a little different
it was
times.
there.
Now somebody could have you on a cell phone footage if you're that age, underage, and you could be in trouble.
Yeah,
So back
yeah,
then, like, I guess if you kept to yourself, you're a good kid, nobody cared, right?
yeah.
And you're probably drawing people in because you guys are jamming. So come on.
Oh yeah, man, it was good. I mean, we were doing like Al Green, and Terry was black, and he played this piano.
Cool.
And that might be one of the reasons my mom bought it for me, so we would have a keyboard to use. But yeah, we did all sorts of soul music, and it was really it was a great time. It was a
Now,
great
did you go
experience.
to college or anything, or did you just go out on your
Yeah,
own after that, or what happened like later?
I did go to college. I got my parents told me, I said I wanted to be a musician, and my dad said, "Well, you need something to fall back on besides your ass," which I thought was probably pretty good advice. So, yeah, I went to college and played music, and again in Ada, Oklahoma, which was just 35 miles from my hometown, and played with a buddy of mine. We were Roger Wills. We were a rhythm section, and a lot of the bands down there, we worked every weekend because they hired the two of us together. Well, fast forward a few years, Roger got me in Reba McEntire's band because he was Reba's cousin. And their drummer left to become road manager. And Reba asked Roger, "Do you know anybody to take his place?" And he said, "I can ask my friend Matt to come audition." And she said, "You're the bass player. You know what you want on drums. So you just if you want him, we'll just tell him he's hired." I didn't even audition.
That's funny.
So, but Roger and I played on the road. When I got out of college, I would get day jobs, and then something would come along, and I would quit my day job. Like I went on the road with this lounge band, playing 6 nights a week in Holiday Inns, for a couple of years. We played Texas and Nebraska and Arkansas and then back to Tulsa. We just kind of did a little circle. I didn't even have a home for a year. I was just living in hotels. And I was in my early 20s, so it was fine. It was fluid. But so I did that for a couple of years, and that really, again, those kind of gigs aren't around anymore. Those 6 night a week hotel gigs, they don't exist. And man, I my chops playing 30 hours a week every week, my chops got so good. I could play. I felt like I could play anything. And the the messages going from my mind to my hands and feet, it became instantaneous. I could hear something in my head and play it. It was just the distance from here to here was nothing. I mean, I could and that was a great 2 years of doing that, so
Yeah, that's not
um,
around too much anymore. I mean, I've been to Nashville. I got young guitarist friends out there, and they play at like hotels a lot there, and that's a
yeah, there's more of those
different
kind of gigs
little
probably.
different scene though. Nashville's like, I
Yeah,
mean, the capital of all that. But as far you get outside that and there's not
yeah,
much. I mean, But that's
yeah.
interesting that you were able to do that back then. And so when you were out playing that in your 20s, what did you eventually do then? When did you get to Tulsa then, you said? Like during that time or was it after that?
I was already in Tulsa. I moved up
Hmm.
here. I had a girlfriend. She was from here, and she's the one that invited me up. She said, "You need to go to Tulsa and see, what's up. We've got a great music scene up here." And man, she got me up here one time, and I was like, I'm moving up there," which is what she wanted. So, uh, it worked out, and
That's
so
funny.
yeah.
So back then, like, who were the big bands then, or like that you were going to go see, like around town back in the that era?
Well, Jim Sweeney, and Jim Byfield and Bill Davis, incredible blues man. I mean, you can ask people like Bonnie Raitt about Bill Davis, and he's passed away a few years ago. But and David Teagarden, when David was not on the road with Bob Seger, David was Bill Davis's drummer. And when he
Okay,
would go on the road with Seger, I played with Davis.
that's
So
cool. Yeah, that's pretty neat. So
yeah,
you're talking what, late
it's
70s, 80s, maybe
yeah, yeah.
somewhere around there? Yeah, I think so.
Early 80s.
Okay.
Early 80s, yeah.
So you've seen a lot of changes now in the Tulsa scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming through the decades. I mean, you can't help it because you've been around. So you've been lucky enough to be around. So
Yes, I am very lucky to be around.
So the
Yes.
colony is still around,
It is.
and you got like Tulsa Theater, I think, and all that kind of stuff maybe has been around for a while
Elma's
now.
Peak.
Yes, that's right, Thelma's. Yeah, that's true.
They're starting to have. I hope. I mean, it's running a bar is a tough business, and keeping the doors open, it's tough.
Hmm.
And Andrew Amelia at Thelma's, he's just a sweetheart, and so I hope that that it continues. I think they're doing fine.
That's good because the Hunt Club has been rolling along lately, and you got Vanguard and all those kind of places too, and
Mhm.
Canes, obviously Canes Ballroom,
Sure,
and
yeah,
you catch a lot of good shows out there. I mean, you probably caught a bunch of good shows back in the day, right?
yeah.
So what's a good show that you caught maybe back in the day in Tulsa that you can think of?
Uh, well, one of my favorites because I love the band was the Tubes,
Oh yeah.
and man, they had a cool sound, and the front man, Fee Waybill, he
Hmm.
was a real charismatic guy, great big guy, tall.
Yeah.
And yeah, he punched holes in the old before the canes was renovated. He punched holes in the ceiling with a baseball bat. I mean,
What? No
man,
way.
he was nuts.
That's funny. So Matt, now that you've been around for a little bit, right? And you're out here trying all these different scenes and you're playing in different bands and
Uh,
are you available for like session work or anything like that if somebody's
yeah,
interested in
yeah.
that? And how far do you travel for that? Because we got people down in Texas that watch the show, Kansas City, St. Louis. Are you able to travel at all for stuff like that after they hear your album and maybe want you to come out?
Yeah, yeah, it would be my rate would be based on covering the expenses of getting there, and if I had to, that would just kind of be on top of a normal rate. So it would
Mhm.
cost a little bit more to get me than it would cost to have somebody that's already in town.
Well,
But
you never know because a lot of people are going to listen to the Monkey Mind now because we're going to put it on the show and never know, right? And they can also do you help people if they have like songwriting in mind and they have ideas, or are you available for talking to people maybe via Zoom or something like that?
uh, yeah, I haven't done much of that. I did have a guy come to town last year and then again this year, a guitar songwriter, guitar player from San Francisco. His name's Joel Kellogg, and I went in the studio with him for 3 days, a month or so ago, and he came and booked some time at Tea Gardens, and then I went down and did a bunch of sessions with him, which that's also something that I would recommend. If somebody from somewhere else, like especially a songwriter type person who's just getting their feet wet, man, come here.
Yeah,
Uh,
come on, right?
put the session together at Tea Gardens or the church, and and I could put together, you know, if they whatever they needed.
You
I
know a
hate to
few
say
people,
I know
don't you, Matt?
I know everybody.
I know, right? Horn
I really
players and guitar players
I
and for
do.
luthiers because Seth's a luthier. So anybody out there
That's right.
interested in guitars, this is Guitars Oklahoma, Guitars OK. So the
Yeah.
show. So now as we're wrapping up here, talk about your new single right now. I saw you had you were releasing one or just got released, right?
It got released on November 1st.
Correct. So what's that single called? And
It's called Compared to What? And it originally came out in 1960. It's a cover. I didn't write it. It came out in 1969. It was put out by Les McCann and Eddie Harris. And man, I love that song. I mean, 69. I mean, I probably heard it when it came out. And I just always wanted to do that song. It talks about a lot of things. It talks about war, religion, uh, and a lot of stuff. It was back then. It was kind of categorized as a protest song, but the lyrics and it does have Shaban sings it. Have you heard it?
I haven't. I've been busy a little bit lately, but it's on my
Yeah,
list. It's on my
well,
list.
yeah, you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you are gonna love it.
I'll check it out after the show after we record this. So
Okay, but anyway, for many years, I would play a show on my birthday. Talk to a venue, put a band together. It was a lot of work, and then invite people out. And I started thinking this year, it's like, God, it's starting to feel a little arrogant to me to say, hey, it's my birthday. Come spend money to come see me on my birthday. You know, I mean, even though I've done it for years and years. So, so I said, well, you know what? This year I'm booking studio time on my birthday. I'm going to hire musicians. I'm going to bring them in. I'm going to spend my birthday in the studio, and we're going to cut this song. And
so who are the musicians on it?
Seth is on guitar. A guy named Kays Mauser who's also from Oklahoma City, like Greg Zink is. Get on my keyboard players from Oklahoma City. Kays is the son of Corey Mauser, and Kays was just he was the right guy for this song. It's very piano heavy, and my friend Mark Meeker on drums, because Mark and I play together a lot now. And then Shaban, I don't know if I mentioned Shaban Tiger played harmonica and sang, and then Victor Anderson uh, played saxophone and I played bass. So it was a six-piece band, and man,
Wow.
I
That
just
sounds
love it.
pretty good, man. I can't wait, buddy.
I can't wait. I'm excited for you to hear it because
I'm
I
gonna put it up on the screen too here so people can take a look at the single. I'll just bring
oh
something
thanks
in.
man.
I'll put it up on the screen.
Because I would love for I would love for people to hear it. I get my stats if people listen on Apple Music. I get a weekly listing of what songs are listened to and where. And it's different every week. Some weeks it's a low number and some weeks it's a higher number. But the fun thing about it is looking where people are from. I've had listeners in Japan, Scotland, London, England, South Africa, Uzbekistan. Uh, I mean, it's so cool that you can put something out in the way the world works today. I mean, somebody can watch this show.
They do. I get the stats too. It was
Yeah.
like some few episodes are huge in Brazil. I'm like, okay.
Hey, I'll come back and play the
Yeah, right.
not really. I'd lose more listeners than it would gain.
That's
But,
okay. So, what else do you have set up for the future now, Matt? Do you have ideas for another album, or are you just going to try and release more singles, or what's the deal for the future?
it's time to do an album again. I've got the musicians kind of in place, and I've just got to get the songs ready. And this time there'll be some of the songs will have lyrics. Some of the songs will be cover versions of old songs, but obscure ones that you've probably not heard. And then there'll still be some originals. And this is kind of a crazy thing to talk about, but I love when we went in the studio for the single. I asked Victor, the sax player, and Shaban on harmonica to play a line together. And saxophone and harmonica together. People don't do that much. It sounds so cool. So there's going to be some of that in the new record where instead of a horn section, lots of times there'll be sax and harmonica. I just think
That's
it's the
cool because you're talking about different frequencies, you know. So
yeah.
it's
I
kind
mean,
of
it's
like,
just
yeah, I like that
it doesn't
because I
stuck
can I
out.
can kind of pretend to maybe or think of it, to imagine, to
Yeah,
hear the different frequencies happening and the sounds and
yeah,
all this stuff. So that's cool, man. I'm looking forward to it. That's great.
yeah. Yeah. Like I said, nobody does that much. So
Not
yeah,
yet.
not yet.
You will, buddy. So
I'm gonna.
paving the way,
I'm
like
fitting to.
Tulsa style, man. Just paving the way, right, buddy?
Well, that's what we want to do.
I love it. So before we wrap up, Matt, tell everybody once again where they can find you.
Uh, I am on Instagram. It's Tulsa Drummer. Yeah, at
I'll put it
Tulsa
right
Drummer.
up here.
Okay, and then on Facebook, I'm just Matt Martin from Tulsa. And like I said, if you want to buy any of the music, you go to hortonrecords.bandcamp.com and you can buy the album on vinyl or CD. You can buy a shirt, uh, and you can buy downloads of the two singles. Uh,
Nice. I
just a
love
buck
it.
a buck a piece. So
Yeah,
uh,
whatever, man. It's all good.
you can own. So there's one album and two singles at this point. By spring summer, I hope to have another album out. So
That's
uh,
when you come back on the show and we'll have an album thing, right?
yeah,
We
we'll have an
talk.
album release.
Well, yeah, because the interesting thing about it is if it's even half as good as the last one, buddy, then we need to bring what we need to do is after you release it, we'll talk about the songs. Like just I'll play a sample of the song and then you can talk a little bit about it, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And why it's important to you. So
Yeah,
we
man.
we need to do that. What do you think?
Let's do it.
I love it. All
Uh,
right, Matt, do you have anybody you want to give a shout out to as I'm closing here? Just think about that for a minute. Wife, friends, anybody, you get a chance here in a second, so have that ready. But I just want to encourage people to hit subscribe, hit like, and go on to all these sites, whether it's Instagram or YouTube or Bandcamp or Horton Records, whatever it is. Just get on there, check out Matt Martin, check out Seth Lee Jones, Paul Benjamin, Drew Wynn's album. I mean, the list goes on. There's so many Tulsa guys on like Horton Records. What is that? It's supposed to be a thumbs up. What is my thing doing here? My crazy YouTube thing. So, anyways, get on there and see these guys and support the music. I mean, we all know these cats, right? Like everybody's living it. You know, these are true musicians who have a passion and a zeal for music and for like the Oklahoma scene, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So you got a shout out for anybody? You want to say hello to anybody out there in YouTube land?
Well, I'm just so grateful for all my musicians. I probably play on a regular basis throughout a year, probably with 40 different musicians. And I shout out to those guys because sometimes I see them a lot, sometimes I see them less often, but man, the love they give me and the fun that we have, it's just irreplaceable. And I don't have any hobbies, this is it. This is what I do. I don't play golf. I don't fish. I don't go bowling. I just do music. So,
I love it, man. I
yeah,
love it, man. That's what I'm talking about. The Boogie Harder, Matt MonkeyMind Martin. Thank you so much, Matt, for being on the show, buddy. Hang tight as we close here. Stay on the line. So thanks, viewers, and please subscribe, hit that button, and as we close here, I'll just be playing MonkeyMind so everybody can enjoy that on the way out. Here you go.